So, what does this document say? Well, and you know, it's funny, we talk about the treaty all the time in Aotearoa. It's been a top 10 or 20 political issue in Aotearoa since 1840. In fact, one way or another. But little is known amongst the general populace about what the document actually says. And it's kind of a humble document. The English text is pretty straightforward, written in lawyerly language, written as if a lawyer wrote it, written in that concise common law English that you would expect in the 19th century, second half of the 19th century empire. Sovereignty is ceded to Her Majesty Queen Victoria, the new Queen, in return for her promise to protect the exclusive and undisturbed possession of their lands, forests and fisheries, and such of their other properties as they may individually or collectively possess, for as long as they wish to retain the same, subject to Crown preemption. And there was quite a fight about what Crown preemption meant, because actually, in law, preemption is the right of first refusal, whereas what colonial law says is that the Crown's right is that of a monopsony. You know, it's the flash word for monopoly, buyer. So only the Crown can buy, right? So, Article 2, Article 1, you're the government now. Article 2, I promise your real estate and your resources will be protected for as long as you want to keep them. But if you want to sell them, you have to sell it to me. And Article 3, and I promise you all the rights and privileges of British subjects. Now, often Article 3 is undervalued, but you've got to remember what was going on at the time, because despite these brutalising musket wars, these tribes, particularly north of East Cape, were engaged in pretty vigorous trade, particularly with Melbourne and Sydney. And a number of leading chiefs owned or leased schooners, trading into those ports. Poipiripi, it was called, Port Phillip, Melbourne. Poihakena, Port Jackson, it's now called Sydney, but Port Phillip and Port Jackson are still there. And they paid customs duty to get in there, because New Zealand wasn't a British possession. So it was actually really good for those chiefs to be able to claim British citizenship as they could, so they didn't have to pay customs duties when they traded into Sydney and Melbourne. So let's not underestimate the power of Article 3. So there you go. Sovereignty, subject to protection of all your resources and real estate, and British citizenship. The Māori text didn't really say that, as many of you I expect will know. What's transferred is kawanatanga. Now, kawanatanga is transliteration with a Māori nominalisation at the end of it. Kawana is governor, of course, you can hear it. Tanga, governorship, whatever that meant. Well, they kind of did know what that meant, because Pilate was the governor of Palestine. And the Gospels referred to Pilate as Te Kawana or Iharaira, from memory. So they knew that whatever was being transferred, it was no little thing. It was an important thing that was being transferred. But that was in return for the promise of te tino rangatiratanga o rātou whenua, o rātou kāinga me o rātou taonga katoa. So actually, even the list of things protected differs in the Māori from the English. The English is lands, forests and fisheries, right? Exclusive and undisturbed possession of your lands, forests and fisheries. And I remember at the time, the Waitangi Tribunal, when the fisheries debate was going on, the Waitangi Tribunal said the problem with the English text of the treaty is not that it's imprecise about the fisheries guarantee, The problem is that it's all too precise. It's everything. And that's not going to work, interestingly enough. So you see the English legal language, and then the very different approach in the Māori. Te tino rangatiratanga o rātou, whenua o rātou, kāinga me o rātou, taonga katoa, the tino rangatiratanga, whatever that might mean, of their lands, their villages, and all of their treasured things, or all of their properties.